And it tells me I have to verify my YouTube account, which I don't have.
Hey, Kyle.
Doug says we're good.
Hey. We're live.
Okay.
We did it, guys.
This is stressful.
Kathy, I'm stressed for you.
There we
Honestly, you deserve.
I-
You've done yeoman's work just getting it to this phase. Never mind going through these ridiculous hiccups.
On my screen, it's just us three in
Okay,
the
we're
corner.
live.
Madam Chair,
Meeting will come to order. Welcome to the Warwick Special School Committee meeting for the budget, Wednesday, May 6th. Pursuant to Executive Order number 20-05 issued by the Governor of the State of Rhode Island, this meeting will be conducted by electronic communication only. Members of the public wishing to access this meeting may do so at the link https://utu.be/HFQCPJ_MHK4. Thank you. At this time, we will hear from public comment. Ms. Boning?
Actually, I don't have any.
Yeah, I didn't get any either.
None. But may I make one comment so that
Please.
to make it a little easier in the future, instead of doing a direct link to the Zoom meeting, I'm going to post the YouTube, the WPS admin YouTube station, and each meeting will be on that particular site, and they can either rewatch one of the live streams or the one that's currently going to be watched. It will go live when they turn it on, so that it'll be more of a generic code, and we won't have to worry about being a particular from here on in.
Thank you. Wonderful. Okay. No new business at this time. So we go to unfinished business, discussion, action, adoption of superintendent's recommended 2021 budget.
Madam Chair,
Superintendent.
just to start things off, as you know, we're looking at the schedules now for the high schools and what courses students select, and based on their course selections, how much staff we need. That process is still, ongoing, and next week you'll be hearing from my office as far as potential reductions. Some of those reductions, I think, are really in terms of being efficient, where you might not need as many sections of a certain class. So while I can't give you the detail tonight, I could tell you when you do discuss the idea of breakage, you can consider, I think, bumping that up some more, and we can talk about that as you get to that tonight.
Thank you. Anything further? Okay, Mr. Ferrucci.
Thank
Good
you, Madam Chair.
evening.
Good evening, school
Good
committee
evening.
members, fellow colleagues. We'll pick up where we left off last night. I think the school committee did a great job getting through the non-staffing section of our budget. And while Rob brings up the document that we'll be looking at, just kind of quickly recap that having gone through the non-staffing portion of the budget with adjustments recommended by administration and $1.1 million worth of adjustments that the school committee came up with, we're staring at a $1.4 million reduction to the superintendent's proposed need from the community. And there are a host of salary and fringe benefit items that we're going to get into this evening. Mr. Baxter has on our screen. The primary focus of our attention will be under column H, as in Henry, so that we know that the current request at 11.9, we currently have $2.2 million on the table being reduced with a need to the city of 9.6. Just to categorically go from top down where we currently are, and I'll recap quickly. We did determine that there was a wise calculation error in when we did salaries back in early April. So we've got on the table $152,000 adjustment, and that's going down. The administration is looking at reorganizing the HR office by eliminating one full FTE. And so we've got the three components that make that up. And again, that's about $198,000 reduction with an $87,000 add. So it's a little over $100,000 in savings. There are two positions that are no longer needed in our elementary schools. So we're reducing salaries by $70,000 per position. Our ESY program that typically runs through the summer, we are not expecting to have a full implementation based on the limitations of closeness of students, et cetera, probably moving to a virtual program. So we're projecting a total cost need of approximately $275,000. So we're reducing the 6, but we're adding 325 for the need. So we're saving 275 off of that activity. And further on down, all of those adjustments for salary adjustments is $687,000. Then the fringe benefits associated with those positions are located next. There are medical stipends, not medical, but medical premiums paid on behalf of the staff that are going to be no longer needed. So we had that reduction. And then the fringe benefits, Social Security, and pension contributions attached to the various salary wages are also noted. So if the school committee is comfortable with those items that are already currently listed, we'll let those sit there. If you'd like us to reconsider any of those items, let us know. And now I would turn it back over to the school committee. What other adjustments do we either want to add to this, or do you want to make cuts on some of the cut recommendations that are currently on the list? Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Is there anybody that would like to jump in?
I just would like to say, I think we should restore the 2 technology consultants to the, back to the budget.
Have they been taken out?
We did that already.
Haven't been, yeah, they're not out, are they?
No, they're in this administration's column, but they're not in the school committee column. So those positions still reside in your budget as it stands now. They're not being cut.
No, they can't go anywhere.
Yep.
Locked in the math. Anything else, Mr. Cornell?
No, that's it. I was just confused because I saw it was still in the superintendent's budget, so I just want to make sure that it was back in budget. So I'm glad that it is.
Thank you. Mr. Adams?
I got nothing else to add.
Cobden?
I'm fine for now. Thank you.
Mr. Testa?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have any other additional cuts to what we made last night, except to reiterate the areas that I think we really need to go to try to make an impact here. I think we're at 9.6 now, and I just don't think that's tenable at all. And if we go forward with 9.6, I can't help but think that we're going to go forward and we're going to recognize that we have sacred cows in the district, and we can't. The fact of the matter is between, I'll say it again, the healthcare co-share to true 20% is $1 million. A delayed wise raise, not a rescinded, just a delayed wise raise is 3 change. That's $1.4 million. And I understand your feelings on that, and the feelings of the rest of the committee. But
Mr.
So-
Testa, like I
Yep.
think I mentioned, or maybe I failed to, we have had those conversations.
yeah, I have no other further cuts to propose.
Madam Chair,
We increased breakage.
yes, I would recommend 400,000 more in breakage, Madam Chair.
Yes, please.
Madam Chair, Mr. Frucci, on the regular overtime, 51201 at 175,000. I think I had submitted or made a suggestion to reduce that by 50. And I based that upon, I don't remember what the historicals were, but I have to think that even going forward next year, building use isn't going to be what it was pre-COVID. So I'm wondering, is it reasonable in yours or Mr. Oliver's opinion to reduce that to $125,000?
I did share with the school committee a historical trend of all the salary lines and all the fringe benefits lines earlier today. And on that particular report, we show regular overtime of $143,000 spent in FY19, and we show $185,000 being projected for this year. The next line after that is event coverage overtime. We spent $84,000 in FY19, and we're looking at $60,000. That's where the event coverage in buildings is, and we typically would bill that against the folks using the buildings. So the regular overtime really is tied to emergencies that happen in the buildings where people get called back to come in on weekends. If they're doing snow removal and they have their regular 40-hour-a-week job and they come in at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's those types of activities that are part of that pool that you're referring to. I suppose we could try and manage to the 125, and then we'll just answer that question as the school year unfolds.
I just found the historicals on it. I apologize. I thought I had it at my fingertips. Okay. Well, it isn't, well, 125 is probably too low based on what we've done for the last 2 years. So I don't think 175 is unreasonable based on the historicals now. And a cut of $5,000 or $10,000 isn't going to make a hill of beans of difference. So I would just suggest just leave it. I'll rescind my proposed cut.
We have 1.4 million budgeted for the private pension, certified pension. I hate to do this, but we are going into a new way of doing the pension starting the year after next, Superintendent. Is that correct?
That's correct.
2021, I think. And so I think we should put $500,000 in and pull 900,000 from that.
Madam Chair, if I may, I would support that. Full disclosure, I had originally proposed we cut the entire amount. And I would explain as to why, I think you and I agree, cutting a pension contribution, I think goes against every fiber of our beings. It does for me. I know
Certainly
we did this
does for
last
me.
year. And I look at, and as I look at this, I think the context matters. Mr. Fuji, if I remember correctly, July of last year, the pension was at 91 point something % funded, even though it had dipped when we still made the contribution. So we know full well that this July is going to be even lower because you're going to have just the asset reduction alone, I'm assuming is going to be significant. So what we don't know is where it's going to land. So it could land in the high 80s. But even in the high 80s is an extremely well-funded pension plan. And I know it's very convenient for me to be saying this, but I wouldn't say this if I didn't think this was another one of the areas that we have to go to for this particular fiscal year. It pains me to do this, But I don't think if we had a pension plan that was, 75% funded, then this would, obviously, we would never do this. My only concern is, and I think I said last year that we may rue the day we did it last year. And here we are, second year in a row, and we're doing it again. And this is all on us, but I don't see a way out of this ask if we don't do this, in addition to some other things.
Tony, what is the low end of the ARC contribution?
I'm sorry?
What is the low end of the ARC contribution?
The range that the report had provided was a $1.13 million contribution as the minimum, and the alternative to be the 1.459 contribution. So by subtracting 900,000 off of the 1.4, you have a budget of about $500,000, which is about 600,000 below the minimum.
So we've got to put at least $500,000 in.
Is exactly what you have. It's 559,000 that would go in next year, based on this current proposal.
Then is the committee good with that, or?
Can I speak?
Yes, please.
I have to agree with both of you. It's not something that I want to say to do, but it's something that we have to use right now. We're in dire straits, and I feel badly about it. And obviously it's not the best way to handle things. I don't need to reiterate what you have said or Mr. Testa. So I would have to go with it too.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Adams?
same boat, really. There's no need to repeat anything, but this is definitely something that we don't want to be dipping into.
No, we don't. I don't feel that we can cut it in total because I really believe we have to put something in.
I agree.
Yeah, and I would say that, like, it's very unfortunate, especially after last year we had to take money from this too, and it's a terrible thing that we have to do, but we don't really have many choices, especially now we're in a very dire situation. Like nothing like this and what's going on right now has happened before, and our costs are going up, and city has less money this year. It's a terrible situation. So I agree with the rest of you. Like we just don't, unfortunately, we don't have much choice.
Thank you, Mr. Cornell. Okay. Mr. Ferrucci,
Yes,
guide us.
I'm sorry?
Guide us.
Okay, well, at this juncture, if the consensus of the school committee is to present a budget to the city of requesting an additional $8.3 million in financial support, then I would be seeking the school committee's adoption of these cuts and then instructing us to reduce the budget based on the lines that you're authorizing tonight and prepare a document to send to city council and sit in the mayor's office by Friday, requesting $8.3 million of additional funding for next school year. My only observation that I think is reflective of everybody's sentiments based on the last 3 weeks worth of work that's going into this is that we're fully cognizant of the community's other fiscal issues. And that $8.3 million is a significant request. We're also cognizant that we currently receive $127 million in community funding, and 4% of that is about $5.1 million. So we're going to be coming in with a $3.2 million over a 4% increase in local support. But the efforts demonstrated over the last 3 weeks has shown the critical need of the school department. And these numbers are in fact very closely aligned with both the fiscal finance committee's projections from last October and the program audit that we had conducted. So it shouldn't be a surprise to the community. So we'll present it and then we'll see what happens going forward. As the superintendent mentioned this evening, the ongoing analysis of enrollment and scheduling will continue to be worked on. So we may have some revisions in the next 30 days. More importantly, our current fiscal year end picture will become more and more clear as we go through the month of May and early June. And as long as the revenue comes into the school department that we have currently budgeted this year, we will be coming back before the school committee asking to purchase some non-reoccurring expenses that may be able to help relieve some of the $8.3 million pressure that we face in front of us. But we have to make sure that the revenue streams that we're expecting do come through to fruition, which probably we'll know by the 1st of June. So this is going to be an ongoing effort for the next 30 to 45 days. In referring to a football game, I would say we're entering the tail end of the second quarter, and we got the third and fourth quarters coming up in front of us to continuing to try and chip away at that $8.3 million need that we need to ask from the community. That's all I have for closing comments.
Anyone else?
Madam Chair, if I may,
Mr. Testa?
thank you. Mr. Ferrucci, thank you for your comments. I have to say that I think this 8.3 is too high. I think this committee will be perceived as, rightly or wrongly, as not being sensitive to the fiscal situation in the city. I have concerns when you can go up and down the street and you can find people who have been furloughed or lost their jobs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, worrying about how they're going to pay their mortgages. And the school department's going to come in again for the second year in a row with an $8 million ask. So I just need to go on record saying I do have some serious concerns about the level of this ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tester. I think that we all do. I don't think that we're going to get this. So things are going to end up being cut to shreds, because I have a pretty good idea of how the city runs, and they can only, maximum tax hike, they can only bring in $8 million. And their pension plan is, pension plans and healthcare are real albatrosses. I mean, what we do between now and then is it's very important, but we have to have a budget to the city by Friday. And at this time, we've had discussions with people, and it is what it is. We know it'll have to be revised, and people are really going to have to decide what they want to do. The superintendent will bring up layoffs next week. My understanding, he has 13 or 14 possibilities. So that'll be something for the committee to consider. As far as our teaching staff, I don't know if he has any layoffs in mind for anything else, for the support staff or administrative staff.
Madam Chair, first piece would be the teaching staff as we have the June 1st deadline. Then we can certainly have further discussions as we go into the third and fourth quarter.
Thank you, Superintendent. Would anyone else like to speak? Would anyone else like to speak?
If no one else, Madam Chair, I wanted to say one more thing and forgot.
Mr. Testa,
I think, in addition to what the superintendent's going to propose for layoffs, I think this will make last year's work look like child's play.
you've got that right.
I think we quibbled over $500 line items and $1,000 line items, and I understand that. But when all is said and done with this budget, the elephants will still be in the room, and we're going to have to address it at some point sooner or later. But especially going forward, I worry about the future, because we're at 100 and, Tony, what would the budget be if this ask went through, 8.3?
173?
Yeah, thereabouts. Yep, that's a good number. So, you know, it's not too far off to see this budget approaching $200 million in the not so distant future if we don't rein in these things. So
What are we going to rein in, Mr. Testa?
We have to.
Our salaries are what drives this budget, and we're in a people business.
Yes, but our benefits drive it too. And like I said in the first meeting, I used the line from the Animal Farm. Well, and I'll paraphrase it, all people are equal, some are more equal than others. And the perfect example to me is a custodian in a school is paying more for their health care than the teacher in the English class. And that isn't right. It's not. It's the
No, it's not right.
It's a tough concept of fairness to sell to the taxpayers who pay the freight for all of this. So, you know,
Mr. Testa, I have to stop you.
Mhm.
For one reason. Look at what city employees are paying too. And look at their benefit package for health and retirement, okay? So, and that is a lot of what I get when I speak to various individuals in the district. Well, the city has X. Why don't we have that? Why can't we have that?
yeah, and that's common.
And I understand, but it doesn't make it right. None of it's right. We compared to the city, our plan is not what theirs is. Theirs is a much better plan. With far lower costs for the individuals and for them. And I think everybody should have that. And I think everybody should have great health care. It should be predicated on percentages. With national health care, we wouldn't have to have this conversation. It's a real mess. And, you know, we're working on it. But we probably will have to go and meet with our healthcare folks and with WB and discuss a lesser plan. And, I'll be discussing that with the superintendent and Mr. Fucci, because I don't know how else we get around it. But we can't do that right this minute. So I can't add that right now.
Oh, understood. But you know, what the city has, and again, this is common because usually oftentimes, not all the time, what one collective bargaining unit agrees to sometimes becomes a template for the others. I get that. That's human nature. But I think we you know, all we can worry about is what we're responsible for, obviously.
Agreed.
So I think I think that's a glaring inequity, and I think
Agreed.
we have to fix it. So, you know, we can cut staff too, and that's really going to impact students. Or we could do something like that, and something like what I was proposing isn't going to impact students. But okay, thank you. I have nothing else to say now. I'm all done. Thank you.
We're damned if we do and damned if we don't, Mr. Testa. Ms. Cobden, did I hear you wanna? Ms. Cobden?
Yes, no, pretty much in agreement with both of you. I mean, we're gonna have to make cuts later on too, we know that, but we also know we're gonna get some money back from this year, so maybe that will help. And we won't have those figures for a while.
Well, I hope we'll get some money from the, COVID and all that, so
Right, exactly. So,
there's
I
a
think we
billion
have to
dollars
do what
coming.
we have to do. I think it's in line of what the audit says. And then we go from there.
Thank you, Ms. Cobden.
You're welcome.
Okay, there being no further business,
Madam Chair? Yeah,
Mr.
so I just wanted to say that so next week there will be projected layoffs, and unfortunately looks like it's going to come to that, and that's something I want to avoid. But perhaps I want to try to maybe offset, at least have at least layoffs as we can, and unfortunately that means we might have to give and take, and also like so I propose that maybe we should consider cutting all admin raises, which equals $144,000, because when we go to city council, they'll say, how can you afford to give these raises? Like they'll criticize us for that. And if we don't do it now, we're probably going to do it later. And if that offsets and means we have to lay off less people, then I think we might have to consider that. Like, and our administrators have done a fantastic job.
Miss,
I understand, Mr. Cornell. Our principals and vice principals and people like Ms. Bonang and folks in the offices and stuff have not had a raise in
I know.
3 years. 3 years, and they're paying more, much more for their health insurance, and it's going up again.
may I speak?
So I can't support that at this time.
May I speak?
Please, Ms. Cochran.
I am going to say this right now. I am in exact same position as Ms. Bacchus is, Mr. Cornell. We need to value our people, and no one deserves to go that long without a raise, and I will not be voting to cut that.
I understand your position, and it's not a good thing, and wouldn't be enthusiastic about it all. It's just unfortunately we have to make some tough decisions, so I just wanted to bring it up there.
And Madam Chair, if I also may add, the total for admin raises is, I think,
$144,000.
Exactly. So, Mr. Cornell, that's not even a pebble in the pond here when it comes to our overall staffing cuts. And I do think they deserve it because they work.
That would bring us down to 8.2.
Right, because and they're working just as hard as anyone else. So I have no problem with that. And full disclosure, I had initially proposed cutting that, but I've changed my mind because of the increased workload. And they haven't gotten anything in Madam Chair, I think you said 2 or 3 years. I don't remember the number, but it's
3.
And they deserve it. I mean, we cut it last year, so thank you.
We did cut it last year, and the increase in the healthcare was upwards of 14%, and it hurt. And not everybody's making, not everybody in the administration makes 100,000 or better. A lot of them make 40 or $50,000 a year.
And also, this wasn't for the top tier either. This wasn't for Dr. Thornton and Mr. Ferrucci at that level, if I remember correctly.
That
It
is
was
correct.
levels below. Right. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, then. I guess this is it for now.
Yeah, and also I just want to say for the record, like that suggestion is nothing infringing on administrators. They have done a fantastic job, especially how the principals.
I understand.
Yeah.
We understand. I know that, the tendency is to reach for straws, and it's
It just,
You know.
it's tough times.
This is my, 8th budget. And it gets worse every year. So there being no further business before this committee, actually, we should probably vote on this. So I will move the amended budget. Move approval at this time of the amended budget.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm opposed, Madam Chair.
Aye.
The vote stands 4-1. Mr. Testa dissented. Thank you. This time I move, does anybody have anything they would like to say?
Just a quick
Superintendent.
question. Is it Friday you present this to the city, or however that's going to go in this new virtual?
Friday it's transmitted to the city.
As transmitted. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Our next scheduled school committee meeting is our regular monthly meeting next Tuesday, May 12th, 2020 at 7 p.m.
7? Okay.
on YouTube. And private session will begin at 6 p.m.
Okay.
Okay, that was my only question, if we're gonna be able to have that.
Yes, we can.
Awesome, thank you.
We'll have that here at 6 p.m. and then we'll go to open at 7 p.m. And
Okay,
then
I'm gonna
Ms.
stop
Bowman.
the live stream, but may I speak to you prior to you getting off? So we
Yes,
can discuss how to
don't stop
do,
it yet because we
Yeah.
haven't adjourned,
no,
but I'll stay on.
okay.
There being no further business before this body, I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 The ayes have it, 5-0. Thank you for joining us this evening. Good night.
Night.
Stay well, be well, and God bless. Thank you.